Let me give you guys a rundown of what's going on with the Bay Area, because Bay Area housing price collapse, you may think you're ahead. Oh, so what? It doesn't really affect the rest of California. Oh, it doesn't affect me. But let me tell you guys, if the Bay Area housing collapses even further, if it's like a negative 70, 80, 90 type of collapse, well, it's going to affect you. Because many of these office loans, these massive real estate property loans, are all backed by small regional banks. And guess what happened with the past few regional bank failures? Well, people freaked out, and now many regional banks are kind of on the seesaw right now, right? They may actually just topple over right away if we just get a few more foreclosures on some big projects. Now, San Francisco's real estate was pretty stable. In fact, it was actually one of the most sought after real estate pieces in the world. And even Oakland, right? As bad as Oakland was, property prices actually went up really well before the pandemic. But now with the crime rates at an all-time high, even in Oakland, right? Even in downtown Oakland, condos like these used to sell for way more than $489,000 for one bed. This was easily a unit that could have been sold for $600,000, $700,000 before the pandemic or during the peak like 2021. Same thing with San Francisco. I mean, go check out the downtown area, right? This is like the downtown area, the offices, and look at some of these units. It's actually pretty affordable. Like this one on Larkin Street, it's actually a fantastic unit. You know, even though it's kind of like a townhouse setup, it was impossible to get something like 1,500 square feet for just $995,000. So we're seeing some pretty massive price cuts. I mean, some of the most luxurious skyscrapers like this one, 1,300 square feet with a garage space, $1.4 million, was easily almost a $2 million unit during the peak. And many of these properties, the listed price, nobody's paying the listed price. The listed price is a facade. This unit, for example, $1.4 million, I've seen several of these high-end units. They didn't sell for that. They sold for like 1.1, 1.2, and some even sold under $1 million. And the prices are dropping a lot, and the numbers do show. And the regional banks right now are all sweating. According to the latest numbers from Go Banking Rates, the average home price for Palo Alto, probably the last good spot of the Bay Area because this is where Stanford is located, was down nearly $500,000 from this time last year. Mountain View, where Google is headquartered, is down $250,000. And obviously in San Francisco, prices are down more than $200,000. We also have the California Associate of Realtors says prices might bounce back soon, but I'm gonna be real with you, there's no way prices are bouncing back, and we're already seeing the city itself starving for money because real estate does make a city a ton of cash. Go to Manhattan, they are very strict about their property tax and also property transactions and transfers. New York City makes so much money. They make billions of dollars every year just from the real estate sector. And this is the same thing with the Bay Area, right? They make a lot of money from the real estate sector, but now with real estate transactions on an all-time low, San Francisco is so broke that when people ask them to reevaluate their properties to get a lower property tax, they said no, despite some of the biggest landlords in the world like Blackstone giving them a massive letter. And now San Francisco also increased their building inspection fee by 15%. Because they're really out of revenue at this point. Small business owners are gone. Some of the biggest corporations in tech have shrunk their offices or left. And many of the residents who thought about buying a property or a second property have all canceled their plans. The amount of new units being produced in San Francisco is at an all-time low. In the first 2 quarters on average for San Francisco, there's usually about 2,000 condos being built / apartments. Now it's only less than 300. And it just shows you that most construction companies right now in San Francisco are only finishing up units, not starting new units. With many projects like One Oak and also Hayes Point, skyscraper projects that are sought after are all being canceled. I mean, look at these. Some of the highest end buildings in San Francisco. Look at this one. Very good neighborhood, right? Next to see views of the Golden Gate Bridge. These units almost never get sold for $1.6 million, 2-bed, 2-bath. These are the units that are very exclusive. This was easily like a over $2 million property, now being super cheap. I guess $1.6 million isn't cheap, but compared to the previous price, it's a big steal. And the Bay Area is going to be taking even more hits. You also got some of the biggest real estate foreclosures ever. Office towers in San Francisco is basically worthless. Let me just show you guys some pretty crazy stats. So if you just go to like a random office building here, like the Trans-America Tower, you got like 600 California Street, all being sold for pennies on the dollar, guys. If you check this out, put the little guy on the streets. This is going to be one of the biggest banking offices in San Francisco, and it's being sold for dirt cheap. Nobody really wants it, right? This is where, I think this is the Wells Fargo's building, something like that. But this building was sold for 75% off. It was a super cheap price, and guess what? They only got a couple bidders, right? Westfield Mall over here, completely empty. Nobody's here. They defaulted on a $500 million loan. Park 55 hotels, they defaulted on 2 hotels, almost 3,000 rooms for $700 to $800 million. So defaults are getting crazy, and the smaller defaults, like $1 to $10 million, basically never get reported on the news, and they're happening on a daily basis. And it doesn't help with the Feds increasing interest rates. You know, a lot of buyers are turned off by the Bay Area real estate, especially if you want to come here to invest. Good luck, right? Oakland landlord stands to lose everything after a tenant fails to pay rent for 3 years? Like, what's going on here? Like, I've never heard this before. Now, I'm sure rent and landlords are a very touchy subject for you, but I'm just going to keep it straight for you. If a city has insane laws like these to prevent small landlords from buying second and third properties to rent out, say goodbye to the city. The city isn't going to generate any revenue, and it's a massive turnoff for any sort of real estate investing. The reason why New York City, Miami, Las Vegas, these cities are making so much money from rentals is because their rental laws, some of them are pretty strict, but not this strict. New York City, for example, landlords do make a massive stack of cash. And this is why New York City is so wealthy and rich. This is why they have a stack of money in the bank. But now, I have no clue what Bay Area is doing. You know, high homelessness, high crime, and they also said screw the small landlords and screw the small businesses. And this is what happens, right? Hundreds of thousands of office workers no longer come back. And the Bay Area looks like this now. This is San Francisco right in front of City Hall Square. And instead of addressing the core issues like, oh, maybe we should clean up the tents and the homeless and maybe designate certain areas of the city for tents and homeless people, like what San Diego's doing. But let's not do anything. Let's just like gate it off. Like a dystopian city. This is dystopian. This is scary. And San Francisco is deteriorating every single day, with many of the residents all saying that it's just so unsafe to come out and do anything. It is not a city where you want to like raise kids or get married, according to many of you commenters. So San Francisco, I have no clue what's going on here. I mean, chances are they're not going to change anytime soon. What a lot of people are saying is despite writing letters to the city to address several of the issues, and these are not from citizens and just regular residents. These are from business owners who have their business in San Francisco for decades and decades. They're literally begging the city to do something, change it up a little bit. But nothing's ever being done, and it just sucks, right? It really, really sucks for some of the business owners and the tenants. I can't imagine people buying real estate. Imagine you bought a condo in San Francisco for $1 million, right? Back a couple years ago. Now it's worth $600,000. I mean, you have to be devastated at that point. That's so much property value just lost from just a few years. And it's not even your fault. I mean, this is supposed to be like the tech city. Everyone was expecting the office workers to come back. But at the moment when the office workers stick their noses in after the pandemic and they see all the homelessness, the tents, the crime, the drugs, they lost 150,000 office workers. And this is what happened in San Francisco. And we could be seeing a massive house of cards collapsing. If you thought that Detroit real estate collapse was crazy, the Bay Area is about to be even crazier.